celebrate a building. It's something actually much bigger than that. It's celebrating Fulton's longstanding commitment to the city of Lebanon and to this community. This building is simply a 30-year symbol of that commitment that actually extends back to 1831 when Lebanon Valley National Bank was founded. Our downtown employees, many of whom have joined us and are here today, are proud not only to work here, but to volunteer and serve on the boards of many civic and charitable organizations, including the YMCA, the Lebanon Community Library, the United Way, the CLA, the Salvation Army, SARC, Lebanon Family Health, and the American Heart Association, and that's just to name a few. Special guest, amongst a lot of retirees who have also joined us here today, is Al Murry. Al was the CEO and president of the former Lebanon Valley National Bank. Am I allowed to say when you started your career, Al? It was back in May of 1978 with Lebanon Valley National Bank. And Al was the driving force behind the planning and construction of this building in the downtown. And Al is going to take this opportunity to share some of his thoughts and look back on the history surrounding those events.
When you're old and retired, you probably talk more than you did while you're in business. So Kristen said don't take more than 35 minutes, and so I made it so no than 35 minutes. But in 1983, when our board of Lebanon Valley National Bank decided it's time to build a branch, our new bank headquarters, we did so, and we had at that time 10 branches. 9 of them were here in Lebanon County and 1 in Berks County, and 1 over at Pine Grove. We decided to come here because our headquarters building at that time was at 9th and Cumberland Street, and our executive offices, personnel, and trust departments were located on the 2nd floor in mezzanine. We rented a storefront just down the street from that for our commercial banking group. Up in Anvil on the 2nd floor, we had our boardroom and our audit department. And in Cleona, which we called our operations center at the time, we had operations, new computer facilities, and our controller's office. So we were spread out everywhere. We had about $200 million in assets at the time. And so we said, we are getting to be so inefficient by being in multiple locations, you can never speak to one another. We said it's time to build a new building. The board at the time was, and still continues to be, very committed to the city of Lebanon. And so we said, let's stay in Lebanon, but at the same time we looked at locations. One of the locations we looked at for a new building was what we called the old A&M building out on Clinton Road beside the Triangle. We were going to tear that down, but in the end we said, there's not quite enough parking space there. Then we were bold enough to even look up on 241 and 72. There was an orange house that they used to call the Plaster House. We thought of taking that whole block right over to 12th Street, but we said that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, tearing down some good buildings. And so then we looked out at what is now Lowe's, and we said, well, that's not in the city. Surely we want to stay in the city. And so we talked to the people at the redevelopment authority, and as you recall, if you're old enough, like moi, this was the old Miller lumber building that had burned down at the time. Well, the redevelopment authority acquired the land. And at the same time, this creek going through here was really a mess, and everything was kind of a flood zone. And so when the commitment was there to deepen and widen and put in new infrastructure in the creek that would take this off of flood zone, then this became viable. And so at the same time we looked and said the YMCA had just opened the year before, couple of years before. And the library across the way had opened, and this is a pretty neat area. And so sure enough, we decided to do this. We then looked around for an architect, and sorry Bob Hoffman, but he wasn't an architect at the time, but we got a guy by the name of Dave Slocum out of Ardmore down near Philadelphia to design this building. And we picked 30,000 square feet. We wanted 3 floors, and so there's 3 floors of 10,000 square feet. And one of the things that probably makes this building a little bit more unique than most buildings around Lebanon County is right over here in the corner where you see that long stretch. Everything behind that brick facade there goes out. It's a huge vault. Now that wasn't for all the money that we were going to have in there. We knew we wouldn't have a lot, even though we were having a small branch in here. But our trust files that could not be destroyed, and our credit files, which were not only private, but we couldn't afford to lose those. So every night we slammed the vault door closed and felt good about having them there. And so one of the things we said, we wanted to move everything into this building with the exception of our computer operations. We said if there'd ever be a catastrophe, a fire, or whatever, let's have that separate. So we decided to keep the computer room up in Cleona. And there it stayed, and everything else was here. And from 1985, when it was finished, from the time we started construction, John Gertis, who was our chairman of the board of Lebanon Valley National Bank at the time, and Bill Williams, who was chair of our buildings committee, each week we'd all trot on down here and do an inspection. And just like in World War II, you often see in the old-time movies signs saying Kilroy was here. And everywhere you saw Kilroy was here. Well, Kilroy was here too. As we built this thing, especially in the stairwells and so forth, I had a marker pen and I put ABM was here. And I said, 150 years from now, when they tear this building down, they're going to say, who in the hell is ABM? So in this building, there's a lot of places where it has ABM. From the time we finish it, now 30 years, until we made our good merger with Fulton Financial Corporation, Lebanon Valley National Bank grew from about $200 million in assets to about $760 million. And we ended up with 22 branches, 7 in Lancaster County, 2 in Berks County, 1 in Schuylkill County, 2 in Dauphin County, and 10 here in Lebanon County. And that worked out real well. But while we were building, thinking to the future, not realizing how much banking would change. Now we have statewide banking. Back in the olden days, back before 1985, you could only have branches in adjoining counties. So at that time we thought, well, if we want to continue to grow, we want to have the infrastructure in place. And so under where you're sitting, out to about that leg post, this ground was all what they call compacted. So that if we decided to add on to this building, we wouldn't have to go dig it all out again and so forth. And all the infrastructure for drain pipes and everything that is the infrastructure of a building is all done underneath. So if anyone wants to buy this building, you have a start for a much larger building. And we had made plans also for additional parking, including right across the street and so forth. So it was a good move for the bank, and it led up to the time in 1998 when we merged with Fulton Financial Corporation, and at the time Farmers Bank, and that's when we became Lebanon Valley Farmers Bank. And so after a few years I said, I'm going to be 62 bored, I'm out of here. And so I retired at that time, and so from now on every day is a Saturday. I've enjoyed it. So thanks a lot for coming today.